You're listening to Midlife State of Mind podcast, hosted by Erin, a midlife gal who dishes on all the challenges and opportunities that come with this middle section of your life. Each episode, you'll find yourself going between laughter and tears as she covers all the topics you need to know about midlife.
Welcome back to Midlife State of Mind. I'm your host, Erin. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode today. I'm lucky enough to have listeners from all over the world. And so for those of you that are not citizens of the U.S., you may not know that right now we are currently in an election year. And seeing as though I have always lived in the United States, and I don't know if the experience is the same in all countries as here or not, but the U.S. is very divided between the two-party system. We have Democrats, which they consider left-leaning, and then we have Republicans that are right-leaning. And for this episode, it doesn't really matter what each party stands for. Rather, today's episode is more about how we can allow ourselves to have our own strong viewpoints and beliefs, but at the same time being able to be respectful and allowing that others have different viewpoints than us and that they should be allowed to have those viewpoints. And it doesn't really matter which party I'm aligned with or what my political beliefs are. That's not important in making my point about the idea of being respectful and being able to have the respect for people that have different viewpoints than you. I personally feel very strongly about what I believe while simultaneously being able to respect that not everyone has the same views as me. And so it's really important for me to recognize that this doesn't make my views right because I believe them and that their viewpoints are wrong, but rather my viewpoints and my beliefs are right for me in my life and then vice versa for them. So it's not a right or wrong situation, although oftentimes I think what the media portrays is that one belief system is right and the other one is completely wrong and vice versa for both parties. It goes both ways. And one of the important aspects of this too is that all of this is very amplified by the media. There is a lot of very divisive material put out by news organizations that stand behind one party or the other. And there's always, my husband and I comment on this often, is that when you see a political ad, it's always talking about how bad the other opponent is, not ever about your virtues, about what you believe in or what you stand for and your beliefs, but like the other guy does this, and this is why he's a terrible person, and this is why you shouldn't vote for him. And so I often see this on social media, for instance, that somebody will make a really inflammatory remark on someone else's post. It's kind of that keyboard warrior mentality where you'll say it behind the safety and the anonymity of your keyboard, but in your day-to-day life, would you actually say these things to someone in real life? And so when we do encounter someone, either in person or online, who thinks, acts, and believes differently than us, it can make us feel really uncomfortable. And this obviously goes beyond just the feelings about politics. It can apply to any life view that you hold. I'm just pointing out right now what I'm seeing in my own life, all of this division that is going on between the left and the right, if you will, the Democrats and the Republicans. Part of the reason that this is so prevalent is that idea of confirmation bias. It's where you always accept information that supports your beliefs and you disregard and reject any information that contradicts you. So I say it's like living inside of an echo chamber where you only get your information that tells you exactly what it is that you believe and what you want to hear, because it makes you feel comfortable to know that, yes, this is what I believe and this is being validated by all of these other people. And one of the things that I think travel does for people is it gets you outside of your bubble, your echo chamber, and it lets you see that there's a great big world out there that has a lot of different beliefs than you, and it doesn't make their beliefs wrong. Another reason is this concept called illusion of explanatory depth. And this is something that I think I can often be guilty of, is where I believe that I understand complex issues better than I actually do. And so I feel like by making a stance on something, whatever it is, I feel like whatever my belief is, that I understand all of the nuances of it, all of the backstory to it, when in essence, I probably only have a very surface level understanding. And then another reason that we tend to have difficulty in seeing other people's views is we want to avoid complexity. Our brains are very simple creatures and they want a simple explanation. So your brain is very good at categorizing good and bad, black and white. Everything is very easy to categorize. And so anything that causes us to have to go beyond just the simple explanation, we'll avoid it, even if it's less accurate, even if what we believe is less accurate than if we were to go out and do a lot of research and reading and get really educated on the full big picture, not just what one news station is telling us versus the other. And sometimes too, when we surround ourselves with just like-minded people that have all of our same beliefs and values, we have a group identity with that. And we then allow that to strengthen our views. And then we don't want to go against it. It's like inertia that we don't want to have to change the way we think because it takes too much brain power, too much effort, too much time. And so we don't want to be perceived as disloyal. So if we've thrown our hat in the Republican ring or if we've thrown our hat in the Democratic ring, we don't want to be perceived as disloyal and being a defector, if you will. For me in midlife, when I think about where I am now versus maybe where I was in my 20s, 30s, and even 40s, I want to live in a way that I can stay open and curious about the way other people think. Even if I don't change my beliefs, even if I still think that I'm going to stick to my beliefs, I want to be able to understand, why does somebody else feel that way? Why does somebody have a different viewpoint than me? Is it because of their life experience? Is it because of some information that they have? And so finding a way to speak to someone with an open mind, being curious, always speaking with kindness to them, and then building safety into the dialogue. So letting someone know that I may disagree with your beliefs, but I'm willing to listen to you. I'm willing to hear you out. I think that what we're here for on earth is connection and community, and we're here to come alongside each other and bolster each other up. Even if somebody believes differently than me, I want to still be able to have some kind of commonality with them as far as knowing that what we all want here on earth in our lifetime is we want safety. We want to be able to provide for ourselves and our family, to live free, and we want to be able to experience love and connection with others. So it's really important that as evolved people that we try to bridge the gap. We have to fight against being manipulated by the media, by the powers that be, to amplify our own view and be willing to step outside of ourselves and see the bigger picture. So I'd love to hear from you and how you are able to have productive conversations with people who have different viewpoints than you. Are you able to do it? And if so, what do you find is one of the best tactics for that? You can share your thoughts with me on Instagram or Facebook, Midlife State of Mind Podcast, or you can go to my website, midlifestateofmindpodcast.com, and you can send me a message there. I love to hear from listeners after they've listened to an episode to hear their thoughts and feedback. If you are a new listener to the podcast, welcome to the conversation. I would love to have you hit that follow button so that you can stay in the loop whenever a new episode is released each week. And if any episode has particularly resonated with you, and if you enjoy the content that I create, I would be very grateful if you would leave me a rating and a written review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to me on. Lastly, if you're interested in learning about some additional ways that you can support the podcast, you can look at the show notes and you'll see a list of my favorite products. I love and use all of these products on a regular basis. And if you do choose to purchase any of the products with the links, then the podcast does earn a small commission that just helps to offset the expenses of producing it. My podcast is a place where we can inspire each other to make positive changes and embrace all that midlife has to offer. Thank you so much for listening today. I'll be back next week with another episode. See you then. Bye.
This has been an E Squared production.